The planet Zelvion 7 was beautiful once. It had glowing green skies, wide oceans that shimmered with blue light, and forests filled with tall crystal trees. For thousands of years, the alien race called the Tharn ruled this peaceful world. They built great cities made of light and stone. Their technology was strong, their people proud, and their empire spread across 3 nearby systems. But peace never lasts. A deadly sickness had spread through the stars. It came from a black comet, silent and full of death. When it passed near Zelvion's sun, its dust rained down. Crops turned to ash. Water began to boil. The sky darkened. No one could stop it. The Tharn tried everything, science, prayers, even old forbidden weapons. But nothing worked. Whole cities vanished in fire. The air turned poison. The forests burned under strange red lightning. Panic spread. People cried out to their leaders, but the leaders had no answers. So the High Council made a choice. They would send a signal. In the great tower of Zelvion's capital, the last working transmitter hummed to life. It hadn't been used in centuries. It was old, built during the First Galactic War. Back then, it was meant to call for reinforcements. Now, it would be used to call for help. High Chancellor Vile Threk stood before it. He was tall, with silver skin and 6 long fingers. His robes were dark and heavy. His eyes showed fear. "Are you sure about this?" one of the scientists asked. Vale nodded slowly. "We've asked every ally, every neighbor. No one is coming. There's only one world left we haven't called." A silence filled the room. The others looked at each other. One finally whispered, "Earth?" Vael said nothing. He simply stepped forward and pressed his hand against the crystal panel. The machine shook, then began to glow. "We send the SOS now," he said, "to Earth." No one knew much about Earth. It was listed in ancient records, mentioned in old warnings from long-dead civilizations. Some called it a death world, a place where even the air was dangerous, a planet where the creatures were more deadly than weapons, a place filled with beings who survived anything and remembered everything. The Tharn never contacted Earth before. No one did. They were always told, "Leave Earth alone. Do not wake the sleeping fire." But now fire already filled their skies. They had no choice. The signal was simple. It was sent across the stars in every known language. "This is Zelvion 7th. Our world is dying. We seek aid. We have medicine, knowledge, resources. Please help us." The message repeated again and again, into the void. Then they waited. Days passed, then weeks, no answer. The skies grew darker. The sickness spread faster. Cities fell silent. Some said Earth never got the message. Others said they were already dead. But on the 23rd day, the long-range scanner made a noise. A new ship had entered the system. The control room was full of whispers. "What is it? Is it from Earth? Why aren't they replying?" The ship had no markings, no signals, no lights, just a dark shape slowly moving toward Zelvion. Vale stared at the screen. His throat was dry. Zoom in. The image became clearer. The ship was massive, bigger than any the Tharn had ever seen. Its hull was black like burnt metal. Its engines left no trail. It didn't match any known design. Still, it moved. Directly. Toward them. "Send a welcome message," Vael said quickly. "Tell them we're peaceful. Tell them we asked for help." The message was sent. No reply. That night, the skies glowed red. A small moon above Zelvion exploded. It didn't shatter. It vanished, turned to dust in seconds. Telescopes showed a beam of light fired from the mysterious ship. Silent. Perfect. Deadly. The Tharn screamed. Panic returned. "Why are they attacking us?" a commander yelled. "We asked for help." But no one had an answer. Vile sat alone in the dark, watching the screen as the ship came closer. His hands trembled. He whispered the old warning under his breath, "Do not wake the sleeping fire." The next day, one of the outer colonies lost contact. Satellites showed burning cities. No signs of battle. Just destruction. Clean and total. Only. One drone returned. Its recording showed something terrifying. Dark shapes moving through the fire. Humanoid. Tall. Wearing armor that glowed faint red. Their eyes burned with light. They moved without sound. They didn't run. They didn't speak. They simply walked through flames. One stopped, turned toward the drone, and smiled. Then the screen went black. In the capital, screams filled the air. Ships tried to launch, but were shot down before they left the ground. Shields were raised, but they cracked under strange pressure waves. Generals begged for answers. Vale stood before the council. "This is not a misunderstanding," he said. "We called for help, but we woke something worse." "Why would Earth do this?" one asked. Vale looked down. "Maybe because we dared to ask." In the stars, the warship stopped above Zelvian's sky. Then it opened. Panels slid apart, revealing a large circular bay. Inside, lights blinked and swirled. Something within began to descend. A dark, round object falling slowly to the ground. It didn't crash. It landed softly, gently. Then it began to hum. The ground near it turned black. Cracks spread like spider webs. A strange sound filled the air. Not a scream, not a song, something in between. Zelvian's people stared at the sky. Some cried, others prayed. A child whispered, "Did we call the wrong world?" And then the object began to open. The object from the sky stood silent in the middle of the burned fields. It was the size of a small house, round like a black egg, pulsing with faint red lines that crawled across its surface like veins. No one dared to go near it. For hours, it made a soft hum, too low to hear fully, but strong enough to feel in the bones. Birds didn't fly, insects disappeared, even the wind stayed away from that place. High Chancellor Vale Threx stood on the tower, watching from afar. "What is it?" asked General Kor. "We don't know," Vael answered, "but it didn't fall. It was placed." "And the ship?" Vael turned to the sky. The massive warship still hovered above. It hadn't moved. It didn't fire. It didn't answer. It only waited. Something was coming. But what? The Tharn scientists sent drones to study the object. The first drone flew close. It melted before it touched the surface. The second drone used a heat shield. It exploded mid-air. The third drone scanned from a safe distance. Its report came back full of static and one word: alive. Everyone went quiet. Alive? How could a machine be alive? That night, the object changed. It began to unfold. Panels slid apart with smooth, unnatural motion. Red mist hissed out into the night. Lights blinked slowly, like breathing. Then came the sound. A voice, but not made of words. It spoke straight, into the minds of those nearby. Not in language, but in raw feeling. Cold, rage, memory, fire. Some soldiers dropped their weapons and ran. Others screamed and clutched their heads. One officer's eyes turned white, and he fell, shaking. He spoke one last sentence before his heart stopped. "It remembers." In the command hall, fear spread like sickness. General Kor shouted, "This is war! We must fight!" Vael said nothing. Another elder spoke. "We called them. Now they answer." "Then we send another message," said Kor. "We say it was a mistake." "We already did," Vael replied. And Vael closed his eyes. They didn't care. Across the planet, strange signals began to rise from the black object. Not sound, not light, but something deeper, something that touched everything. Machines, minds, memories. Old tech stopped working, weapons failed, shields flickered and died. The entire planet felt like it was holding its breath. In the forests near the landing site, small animals began to act strange. Birds spun in circles. Insects formed symbols in the dirt. The plants near the object twisted and burned, without fire. The message was clear. It was preparing. Then a new horror came. Zelvian's moon, what was left of it, shifted. It wasn't a natural movement. The scanner showed engines, hidden deep inside the moon's core. "That's no moon," whispered a technician. "It's theirs." Within minutes, the moon began to move. Slowly at first and then faster. It wasn't just a ship, it was a weapon, and it was aimed at Zelvian. Back in the council chambers, chaos took over. "We must evacuate." "To where?" "They will follow." "Who are they? Why is Earth doing this?" No one had answers. Vale raised his voice. "We need to speak to them directly. You'll die." "Then I will be the first." Vale entered the communicator chamber alone. He stood before the ancient crystal, pressed his hand on the smooth surface, and spoke. "This is High Chancellor Vale Threx of Zelvion 7th. We sent a call for help. We meant no harm. We offer peace, knowledge, anything you want. But please, stop!" There was silence. Then, the crystal glowed red. A reply came, not in voice, but in writing, burning across the wall in deep red letters. "You knew what we were. You called us anyway. Now, burn." The signal cut out. The chamber went cold. Outside, the ground began to tremble. The object in the fields opened fully, revealing something tall, black and still. A figure, humanoid in shape, clad in armor. No face, no sound, just standing, waiting. Then it took a step forward. Where it stepped, the ground died. Grass turned black. Rocks cracked. The very air grew heavy. It walked slowly, without fear. Toward the nearest town, troops were sent in. Tanks, flyers, heavy gunners. They opened fire. The figure didn't dodge. It didn't even raise a shield. Bullets melted before touching it. Missiles stopped mid-air and dropped. Lasers flickered and vanished. The figure raised one hand. A wave of heat blasted outward, silent, invisible. Everything stopped. When the smoke cleared, the soldiers were gone. Nothing remained but armor. Melted to the ground. People fled the town. The figure kept walking. Another black egg dropped from the sky, then another, then 10 more. High Chancellor Vale watched in horror. "What have we done?" A whisper came from behind him, from an old historian. "You called Earth," the elder said, "and Earth does not forget." The night sky above Zelvion 7 had turned red, not from the sun, not from war, but from something worse. Fire fell like rain, controlled, focused. It came not from bombs or missiles, but from beams of light so hot they didn't burn. They erased the black figures had multiplied. 10 had landed, then 50. Now over 100 walked the surface of the planet. They made no sounds, no voices, no warnings. They simply walked, through cities, through forests, through stone and steel. Every step they took, something died. Metal rusted. Power cells cracked. Air grew dry and heavy. People ran, but the fire was faster. In the control center, High Chancellor Vale Threx watched a live feed from the city of Seralis. It had once been beautiful. Blue towers rising into the sky, floating bridges, gardens in the air. Now it was smoke and silence. One figure stood in the center of the city square. 12 Tharn warriors circled it. They were the best, trained in shadow combat, armored with plasma shells. The signal was clear. Attack. They moved in 2 seconds. It was over. The live feed froze, static. Then only the image of a burning symbol, something ancient, something human, carved into the ground. Are we under invasion? General Kor asked. Viel shook his head slowly. This is not war. Then what is it? Viel looked at the burning sky. This is punishment. They tried talking again. Another message was sent to the ship above. Please stop. We do not understand your anger. We meant no harm. No reply, only silence. And then, more fire. The black moon moved again. It shifted into low orbit. A large panel on its underside opened. Inside it was not metal or engines, but rows of pods. Inside each pod, more of the silent ones, thousands, millions, and they were waking up. One scientist said softly, they were waiting. For what? For someone to call them. In the great libraries, ancient scrolls were unsealed. Old warnings written by long-dead civilizations came to light. One scroll read, Earth was once like us, but the planet changed them. Their minds, their bodies, even their mercy. They survived the worst, and they became worse. Another said, do not reach Earth. Let it sleep. If you wake it, it remembers everything. Meanwhile, on the ground in the destroyed city of Saralis, a lone drone survived. It floated through smoke and ashes, recording. Suddenly it saw something. A figure stood in front of a burning tower. It was human-shaped, but taller. Its armor was dark and covered in glowing lines. One of its arms had a weapon fused into it, pulsing, alive. The figure turned toward the drone. Its eyes glowed red. Then it spoke, but not in words. A message flashed across the drone's screen. You called us. You asked for help. We helped our way. Now, you will remember. Then the drone exploded. Across the world, messages stopped working. Satellites failed. Communication towers collapsed. The fire had no face, no reason, only memory in. A refugee center deep underground, a Tharn mother held her child. The child whispered, Are they demons? The mother answered, No, child. They are humans. The child shook. But why are they so angry? The mother didn't reply, because she didn't know. In the High Council chamber, someone screamed, Why didn't we listen to the old? Warnings! Another shouted, They're monsters! Viel stood slowly. No, he said. They're not monsters. They are something worse. They are survivors. And survivors never forget what was done to them. In the sky, the black warship moved for the first time. Its massive shape rotated, the bottom opened again. And this time, it didn't drop soldiers. It dropped a second sun, small, burning white and falling fast. It wasn't a real sun, but it looked like one. It was a weapon made of light and heat, compact and deadly. The object struck the largest desert on Zelvian. The sand turned to glass. The heat wave circled the planet twice. Even those underground felt it. The planet cried, and still, no voice, only fire. The deserts had turned to glass. Winds no longer blew. The animals were gone. Even the sky refused to move. It was like the whole planet had stopped breathing, and still they came. The black armored figures with their glowing, red eyes walked through smoke and ash without pause. They never ran. They never spoke. They never turned back. They only moved forward. From a shattered city rooftop, a scout named Rilan watched through her visor. She had been trained to track creatures through jungle, desert, and deep space, but nothing could prepare her for what she saw now. Down below, 3 of the Deathworlders walked through the ruins. Their movements were slow and calm. Each step melted the ground beneath them. Behind them, shadows crawled, black smoke moving, like it had a mind. Eyes appeared in the mist, red, flickering, watching everything. Relen recorded the scene with her helmet camera. Her voice trembled as she spoke. They don't need ships. They don't need bombs. They are the weapons. In the High Council's underground chamber, Viel watched her footage. This is not war, he said again. This is a message. Then what does it say? Asked General Kor, his voice cracking. Viel turned to the room. It says, "We heard you. Now hear us." More reports came in, from the mountain cities, from the ocean domes. Everywhere the Deathworlders walked, strange things happened. Machines screamed and shut down. Water boiled without heat. The air turned thick and heavy, making it hard to breathe. And, in every place, survivors told the same story. They saw eyes, red eyes, watching from the smoke. Sometimes they blinked, sometimes they smiled. Sometimes they simply stared until people ran mad. One child who survived the attack on the city of Dreadnoughts spoke in whispers. They looked at me, and when they did, I saw everything. Earth's fire, its pain, its rage. I saw what they became, and what we made them remember. The Deathworlders had no leader. They didn't need one. They moved as one mind, one storm. In the forest world of Threxall, a far colony, another black object landed. The trees shriveled around it. The sky darkened. Then, the screaming started, not from mouths, but from the planet itself. The planet was alive. It felt pain. And now, it remembered Earth, too. Relan, the scout, tried to contact home base. No answer. She climbed down the tower slowly, carefully stepping through burnt bodies and blackened metal. The smell of ash filled the air. Her hands shook. Then she heard something. Footsteps. Soft. Heavy. Getting closer. She hid behind a collapsed wall. Her heart raced. Through the broken gaps, she saw one of them, a Deathworlder, up close. Its armor was alive, pulsing, shifting like it breathed. Its head turned slightly, toward her. She froze. It didn't speak, but she heard it in her mind. "We came when you called. You said help. We brought justice. Now remember who you called." Then the eyes glowed brighter, but the figure turned and walked away. Relan. Collapsed, tears streamed down her face. They could have killed her, but they didn't. That was the real terror. In the far reaches of space, signals from Zelvion reached nearby systems, empires, federations, pirate clans, even outlaw planets. They all saw the same thing. The message burned into every screen. Earth has answered. And now the galaxy will remember. On Zelvion, the skies cracked again. Another light came down, not fire this time, but something darker, something colder. It landed in the northern pole, and from it rose a new kind of Deathworlder, taller, thinner, cloaked in shadow. They didn't walk. They floated. Their eyes were not red, but white. Silent. Empty. They brought something worse than fire. They brought silence. High Chancellor Vale stood before the remaining council members. "We must evacuate," someone shouted. "To where?" Vale replied. Silence. "Is this the end?" another asked. Vale stared at the burning skies. "No," he said softly. "This is just the beginning." The Earth was no longer quiet. For weeks, the world's satellites had picked up strange movements near the moon. Civilian astronomers saw blinking lights in the sky. The media called them space anomalies. Governments called them potential threats. But the people, those who still remembered the signal, knew something was coming. Captain Rhea Carson stood inside the command deck of Eclipse 7, Earth's highest orbiting military station. Her eyes were fixed on the live feed. Pixels moved. Across a dark screen. Tiny blinking dots were getting closer. Too many to count. "They're not stopping," her communications officer whispered. They won't, Rhea replied. The meeting back on Earth, in an underground bunker beneath Geneva, the world's last emergency council gathered again. The signal, decoded weeks ago, had been Earth's first warning. Then came the silence. And now, the shadows. Dr. Malik, the scientist who helped decode the original signal, looked pale. "They've arrived," he said simply. General Monroe slammed his fist on the table. "We gave them peace. We responded with words. And this is what they send?" A projection lit up the room. Hundreds of alien vessels in tight formation. Long black ships with glowing red engines. No markings, no communication. "Have they sent any message?" a president asked. "None," replied the technician. "They are approaching directly." Above the moon, the alien fleet moved silently. Over the moon's surface, not a single shot fired, not a single word spoken. But their actions spoke louder. Satellites began going dark. Communication towers blinked offline. Earth's space stations, one by one, were losing power. On board Eclipse 7, Captain Rhea gave the order, "Switch to emergency systems. Don't rely on networked power. They're jamming us." The crew scrambled. Static filled the comms. Suddenly, one of the officers screamed, "Captain, visual feed from Lunar Base 9. Look!" The screen showed Lunar Base 9, a human base with 82 scientists and soldiers. In seconds, a black shape descended over it. Lights went out. The feed turned to static. No survivors. Earth responds humanity could no longer wait. General Monroe addressed the world. His voice was grave but calm. "We are not the ones who wanted war, but war has come. Today, we defend not just Earth, but everything it stands for, our freedom, our survival." Across the world, massive military warships rose into orbit. The Defiant, the Resolute, the Crusader. Ships designed for deep space defense, but never tested in true battle. Until now. Rhea watched the fleet form around, Earth like a steel shield. But she knew. The enemy wasn't just strong. They were confident. "They're not hiding because they don't need to," she whispered. The first strike. Without warning, the first alien beam cut through space. It sliced through a satellite like paper, then turned and blasted the Crusader. The ship cracked in half. 1,000 lives, gone in seconds. Alarms echoed inside every human ship. "Fire all weapons," came the orders. Missiles, plasma bolts, and railguns lit up the black sky. Explosions flashed like fireworks, but the alien ships barely moved. They were faster, their shields impenetrable. "They're adapting to our attacks," Rhea said. "They're studying us in real time." In the control room of the Defiant, engineers worked desperately to adjust targeting systems. "Try manual targeting. AI tracking is failing," one shouted. "Strange technology, Doctor." Malik received a strange message through an old frequency, one that hadn't been used since the original signal. It was alien, but this time, not a threat. It looked like a pattern, a code, he whispered. "It's a warning, but not from them." He adjusted the filter. Buried in the code was a familiar signal signature. "Human. That's impossible," Malik muttered. This message came from the enemy fleet, but it's of Earth origin. He called the council. "I think one of the enemy ships has a human on board, a captive or a spy. They tracked the signal to the center of the alien formation, a massive ship, larger than any other, black as night, pulsing red like a heart. That's their command ship, General," Monroe said. "Why would a human signal be coming from there?" Rhea received the same data. She stared at the symbol. Faint, old, but clear. It was the emblem of Expedition 12, a human research vessel that had gone missing 30 years ago. How could that ship be inside their command vessel? No one had answers. But Malik said one thing that sent chills through everyone. Maybe someone, or something, was watching us even before we received the signal. Hope in darkness. Mid the panic, a plan was formed. If someone, or something, on that command ship was sending a warning, Earth had to listen. A stealth team would be launched, not to fight, not to destroy, but to board the alien command vessel and uncover the truth. "We'll call it Operation Silent Reach," Rhea said. The mission was simple but deadly. Enter the enemy's heart and find out why a human signal was echoing from inside the darkness. The Black Serpent hovered silently in orbit over the ancient planet. Its hull reflected the dim light of a dying red star, while the crew inside moved with tense urgency. They had survived the signal. They had decoded parts of the warning. And now they stood on the edge of answers, or something far worse. Captain Reyna stepped into the war room. The holographic table glowed with deep blue lines, showing the underground map of the alien city they had found beneath the surface. "We've found it," said Dr. Kincaid, pointing to a chamber buried deep underground. "This is the data core. It's ancient, possibly millions of years old, and it's still powered." Reyna crossed her arms. "You're sure?" "Absolutely. But here's the thing. Something else is down there, too. Something alive. Or it was. I'm not sure." The crew went quiet. Everyone remembered the shadows they'd seen. The screams from the last scout team. The system they were in hadn't seen life in millennia. But something still moved in the dark. The descent Reyna led the team herself. 4 armed Marines, Kincaid, and an engineer named Vega. The drop pod shot through the atmosphere, burning, bright before slamming into the ancient landing pad outside the ruined city. Dust rose, thick and choking. The alien structures loomed around them. Black stone, twisting towers, silent. "This way," Kincaid whispered, scanning with his hand held. "Stairs, straight down." As they moved deeper into the tunnels, the walls became covered in glowing runes. Not written language, more like moving symbols, like the walls were alive. "Recording everything," Vega muttered, his eyes wide. Suddenly the hallway lit up. A pulse ran through the stone beneath their boots, then silence again. The Guardian, they reached the data core chamber's massive door. It was smooth, metallic, unlike the rest of the structure. Vega approached it. "Looks like a biometric lock. I think I can override." The floor rumbled. A sound like metal grinding echoed from behind them. "Contact! Rear!" shouted a Marine. From the shadows came something tall, 7 feet of alien metal and bone. Its head turned unnaturally, glowing red eyes locked onto them. It didn't run. It charged. The Marines opened fire. Bullets sparked off its armor, but one round struck its exposed neck. The creature stumbled, then exploded into dust. "Nanotech!" Kincaid gasped. Reyna kicked the door. "Vega, get us inside, now!" The door slid open, and inside was something far stranger. The core. The room was a sphere. Walls of data crystals, floating panels, a central console shaped like a claw. Kincaid walked forward carefully. "This is beyond anything we've ever seen." Vega started scanning. "It's active. I think it's waiting." "For what?" Reyna asked. The console lit up at her voice. A voice answered, low, ancient, and not in any known language. But they understood it. "You have come. Too late. The Devourers were not stopped. They are coming again." Everyone froze. Reyna stepped forward. "Who are you?" "We were the architects, keepers of stars, builders of silence. We sent the signal to warn the next ones. You are next," Kincaid whispered. "It's a warning system, like a black box for a dying civilization." The truth holograms filled the chamber. Images of war. Alien species united against something massive. shadow. Beasts the size of cities. Whole planets burned. Galaxies vanished. They devour light, consume time. Not even memory survives their path. Reyna's heart pounded. Where are they now? Sleeping. For now. But the signal wakes them. You must not have heard it. You must not answer it. Silence fell. We already did, Kincaid whispered. We responded to the signal. We triggered it. The chamber grew cold. Lights flickered. Then run. Run as far as you can, and pray the stars forget you. Retreat back. In the hallway, more Guardians awoke. The team fought their way out. Grenades, gunfire, screams. Vega was wounded. A Marine didn't make it. As the drop pod lifted off, the planet began to shake. A final pulse escaped into space, one that spread faster than light. The signal had grown stronger. Aboard the Black Serpent, the crew watched their monitors. Dr. Kincaid looked pale. That warning wasn't just for us. It was for anyone who listened. The Devourers. They hunt signals. They follow information. Reyna stared at the stars. And now they know we're here. The alien flagship hovered in Earth's orbit like a giant shadow. Its size blocked out the stars. Inside the command center of the Zarnax fleet, Supreme Commander Volek leaned over a glowing map of the Earth. His dark purple eyes narrowed. The humans should have begged for mercy by now, he growled. But they hadn't. Instead, their planet remained silent. No surrender signal, no distress beacons. Only one thing had come from Earth, the signal, and now that signal had spread. Across Zarnax fleets, across their systems, even their own AI units had begun acting. Strange. One of the science officers turned with shaking hands. Sir, the AI on Battlenest 7 has shut down, refuses to activate. Says it's receiving priority override commands from the human transmission. What? Volek slammed his fist down. This is impossible. They are primitive. But even as he said that, deep inside the flagship, lights flickered. Screens flashed static. A low hum vibrated through the ship's spine. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Meanwhile, on Earth, Commander Liana Reyes stood in the hidden mountain facility deep beneath Antarctica. The room was dark except for one glowing console. Behind her stood the last hope of humanity, Project Echo. A massive black cube, humming with strange energy. It had no visible wires, no seams. It didn't look human, because it wasn't. Liana turned to the scientists. Is it ready? Dr. Malik nodded nervously. Yes, but we still don't understand what it actually is. She stepped closer to the cube. We don't need to understand it. We just need to use it. Behind her, the AI technician whispered, it came from the signal, didn't it? From that deep part of space, the one our probes never returned from. Liana didn't answer, because she knew it did. The cube had arrived 10 years ago, a silent, floating object discovered at the edge of the solar system. It didn't respond to anything until now, until Earth was under attack. Now it had activated itself. Back in orbit, aboard the Zarnax flagship, red lights blinked across every console. Systems froze. Engines refused to restart. Commander Volek stared at the readings. Every fleet in Sector 14 gone silent? The comms officer nodded. All of them. It's like they shut themselves down. Volek's claws tightened around the railing, and then the screens went black, but a single word appeared across every terminal. We see you. The bridge crew froze. Then, without warning, something massive blinked into existence above Earth's moon. Not a ship, not a weapon. Something else. Volek leaned forward. His breath caught in his throat. The shape in the dark sky was shifting. Impossible to measure. Light bent around it. It had no engines, no visible surface. It simply was. One of the science officers whispered, "That's not human." And yet the humans had brought it. Fire everything, Volek screamed. But no. Weapons fired. The targeting systems refused. The AI refused. Even the ship's core reactor refused. And then every alien across every ship heard a voice inside their heads. It was calm. It was human. It said only one thing. You should not have come. On Earth, Liana stood before the cube as its hum rose. The facility trembled. Lights flickered. And then it opened. From its center, a beam of shimmering data shot upward, straight into space. The stars themselves seemed to ripple. A technician cried out, "It's rewriting their tech across the entire fleet." Liana whispered, "It's not just a weapon. It's a message, a warning, a mirror." In orbit, Zarnak's ships turned on each other. One by one, the massive battlecruisers shut down, exploded, or vanished. No human ships had launched. No missiles had fired. But still, the invaders were falling. Commander Volek fell to his knees as his ship cracked apart around him, his last thought before the vacuum took him. They were waiting for us. Hours later, Earth was quiet again, the skies clear. All that remained of the Zarnak's fleet were drifting husks and silent wrecks. No human cities had been touched. In the control center beneath Antarctica, the cube powered down. Liana looked up at the sky feed and smiled. Back in deep space, a signal echoed out. Beyond known galaxies, beyond time. It said, Earth has activated Echo. They are not alone. Somewhere, something old stirred. The Galactic Supreme Council had gathered again, this time in total silence. Their fleets were burning, their stations were gone. And now, a human had sent a message. Not a fleet, not a threat, just a voice. On every frequency, across every empire, the same words played. The broadcast. The screen crackled. The holograms shimmered. A single human stood in the center of the message. No armor, no weapons, no army behind him. Just a scarred face, tired eyes, and a voice filled with something ancient, pain and power. He said only one thing. We warned you once. We begged you twice. You erased our worlds. Now we erase fear by becoming it. Then silence. But the message repeated. Again and again. Across the galaxy. Aliens tried to shut it down. They couldn't. Even secure military channels were hijacked. No one knew how. But the message kept playing, until every citizen, soldier, and emperor had heard it. Rikash's reaction, Emperor Rikash, gripped his throne. His claws dug into the armrests. "This is not war," he growled. "This is something else." His generals stood frozen. None dared speak, except one. High Commander Feltar stepped forward. "My lord, we received another signal. It came after the message." Rikash turned. "Another message?" "No, my emperor," Feltar said. "Not a message, a location." He paused. "A single human dreadnought is waiting, in the dead sector. No backup, no fleet. They invited us." Rikash's eye twitched. "They want us to come?" he asked. Feltar nodded, and then added, "The dreadnought's name is Vengeance." The silent vote. The Council of the Thousand Stars held an emergency vote. Should they attack? Should they parley? Should they flee? One by one, they cast their answers. But the vote failed, because fear had returned, and no one wanted to be the first to face the ship named Vengeance, humanity's plan. On the hidden moon of Pharos 9, Captain Mara Lin stood before a large screen. She watched Rikash's trembling face on the latest intercept. She smiled coldly. "Good. Let them listen. Let them decide. We don't need to fire yet," she said. "We let fear grow." Her second-in-command, Juno, whispered, "What if they call our bluff?" Mara turned. "It's not a bluff." Behind her, a hangar door opened. And for the first time, Juno saw what waited inside, a new warship, larger than Vengeance, with no name, just the symbol of Earth's fallen nations burned into its hull. Meanwhile, on the dead world. At the edge of the dead sector, the alien scout ship Zorath's Eye approached the coordinates. The human dreadnought Vengeance floated in silence. No lights, no movement. It was like a ghost. The captain of Zorath's Eye whispered, "Scan for life." Nothing. Then, without warning, the dreadnought's engines lit up. Its weapons glowed red, and a single word appeared on the scout ship's screen. "Run." The scout turned instantly, but it was already too late. The message wasn't a warning, it was a countdown. Galactic broadcast. Disrupted every news stream across the galaxy was interrupted again. This time it wasn't a voice, it was footage. Zorath's Eye being vaporized in one blast. No remains, no debris, just silence. And then, the words, "Next time, we won't ask you to run." To be continued in Part 9. Fire without warning. Shall I continue with Part 9? You said Part 9. ChatGPT said, title, "The Vrax breached the void, but Earth's dreadnought was already waiting." HFY, Epic Sci-Fi War. Part 9, Echoes of the Fallen. Written in third person using simple and basic English, approx at 2,500 words. The battlefield was silent. Not the kind of silence that brings peace, but the kind that follows horror. The kind of silence where wreckage floats in the dark and no one answers the comms. Above the charred remains of the 4th Vrax fleet, Earth's dreadnought Iron Will hovered like a ghost. Its armor was burned, its hull scarred, but it was still there, still standing. Inside the command bridge, Captain Reyna stood, watching the debris through the wide glass window. Her face was calm, but her eyes were tired. Every breath felt heavy now. "Status report," she said quietly. Lieutenant Kieran's voice came through. "Hull integrity at 61%, weapons online, engines steady, but we've lost over 200 crew members, mostly engineering and lower decks." Reyna closed her eyes for a moment. So many names, so many lives. "Any signs of more Vrax?" she asked. "Not yet," Kieran replied, "but we're detecting faint energy pulses. Could be cloaked ships or wreckage still leaking power." She nodded. "Keep scanning. Use passive systems only. No signals, no lights. We stay quiet." The Iron Will powered down its external lights. It became part of the debris field, blending in with the broken metal around it. They were hiding, now. Not because they were afraid, but because they were smart. The next wave could be worse. Meanwhile, in Vrax High Command, the chamber was darker than usual. Warlord Kazvor stared at the map. He had sent 5 fleets. 5. Each one meant to crush the humans, and all had vanished, one after the other. A cold whisper echoed in the room. "The humans have changed the balance," said a voice from behind. Kazvor turned. It was Overseer Drazal, one of the ancient Vrax elders. His long, silver-gray tendrils twitched with age, but his eyes were sharp. "Do you fear them now?" Kazvor growled. "No," Drazal said, "but I respect them." Kazvor slammed his clawed fist on the table. "Respect? They are insects. They hide behind machines." "They fight like ghosts," Drazal replied. "They strike fast, then vanish. They do not follow our rules. That makes them dangerous." Kazvor didn't like hearing that, but deep down he knew it was true. Still, he gave the order, "Send the Black Dread." The room went silent. The Black Dread was not a ship. It was a monster. A living weapon built by the Vraks centuries ago, hidden because even they feared what it could do. If anything could break the humans, it was that. Back on Earth. In the command center beneath the surface, General Amani watched the latest reports. "The Iron Will is still out there," she said. "Yes, ma'am," her aide replied. "Surviving against 4 Vraks fleets. Alone." Amani nodded. "They're holding the line, but we can't expect them to win forever. We need reinforcements. There are none ready. Titan-class ships are still being refitted." Amani thought for a moment. Then she opened a secure channel. "Wake the sleepers." The aide froze. "Ma'am, you mean—" "Yes," Amani said. "Project Ember." Far below, in a frozen vault, machines hissed to life. Red lights glowed on massive containment pods. Inside slept the last soldiers of Earth's forgotten war, humans enhanced beyond normal limits, stronger, smarter, engineered for war. And now they were being called back, on the edge of the battlefield. Captain Reyna watched as her crew repaired what they could. Medics moved bodies to the morgue. The silence was heavy. Suddenly the ship shook. "Something just warped in!" Kieran shouted. "It's not like the others!" Reyna rushed to the screen. A strange distortion floated outside. Not metal, not a ship. It was alive. It moved like a shadow made of black fire, tendrils stretching across space. It had no engines, no weapons, but it radiated fear. "The Black Dread," whispered an officer. They had heard rumors, stories from captured, Vraks prisoners. No one thought it was real, but now it floated in front of them, and it had found them. The stars above Varnex Prime shimmered as fleets gathered for the final push. The Council of Threxians had summoned every ship, every warrior, and every commander. The order was clear. Destroy Earth's resistance once and for all. High Chancellor. Rethak stood tall inside the War Corps, the heart of the alien fleet. He believed this battle would end the human threat. He had no fear. After all, the galaxy had always bowed before the Threxians, but then a shadow passed over their star. It wasn't natural. It was human. "Incoming object," said the sensor officer aboard the lead Threxian dreadnought. His voice shook. "It's massive." "No, it's impossible." The readings made no sense. The object wasn't just moving fast. It was folding through space, bending light, gravity, and even time. The dreadnought's AI couldn't keep up. Suddenly, it stopped. There, above them, was the Revenant, humanity's final warship, a ship built not just for battle, but for vengeance. It was cloaked in quantum distortion, its metal black as night, absorbing energy instead of reflecting it. Before anyone could react, the Revenant opened its maw. The weapon was not a beam. It was not a missile. It was a memory, a ripple in time. From the Battle of Earth, every alien ship was forced to see the moment when Earth had been invaded, and how humanity had responded. Each crew member felt the fear, the wrath, the roar of humanity fighting with everything, burning with rage. It wasn't just a weapon, it was trauma, broadcast directly into their minds. Ships drifted. Some exploded from within. Crews screamed as their hearts gave out. Others simply powered down, unable to process the terror. The Threxians, who ruled without fear, finally understood what fear was. On the bridge of the Revenant, Commander Ilara spoke only once. "This is for Earth." With one command, the Revenant released its final charge. A pulse of red light spread outward, silent and slow, and every alien ship it touched turned to dust. Not metal, not wreckage, just dust. The War Corps tried to escape, but space folded again, trapping it inside a loop. The Threxian High Chancellor's last scream was swallowed by the void. Back on Earth, the skies turned calm. No alarms, no warnings. No invaders. People came out of shelters. Children played again. And in the stars above, there was silence. The galaxy knew. The message was clear. Do not come to Earth with war, because if you do, you won't leave with anything. Epilogue. Years passed. Peace spread. Humanity didn't conquer the galaxy. They didn't need to. Their silence was enough. Their eyes, always watching, kept the stars in check. The Threxian Empire was gone. Other empires began to study, not Earth's weapons, but Earth's will, and legends grew. Of the war they never should have started, of the wrath they couldn't escape, of the humans who taught the galaxy to fear.